We are recording, so you are ready, Madam Chair.
Thank you. This is a work session at 5:30 on May 4th for the purpose of discussing Title 15 definitions pertaining to dwelling, lodging, and housing. And then we're going to also cover the 2014 municipal land use plan. So I have the packet in front of me, and Jackie, do you have a plan on how you'd like to cover this?
I can gladly just do a short recap of why we're where we are with the ordinance, if you'd like, and then we can just go through it and work down our way through the draft ordinance.
Well, I believe that the commission knows why we're where we are. Do we have numerous public, other people present online or in the room?
We have one person in the audience. We don't have anybody online. I was called earlier by a couple of the commissioners, and I just want to confirm and let everyone know that the definitions that have been incorporated tonight, we have vetted through the building department and the fire department, so we can try to merge in their direction of how the definitions and the ability for them to be able to do the inspections.
Okay, I think it's easy to recognize where those are, and they look quite different from what Title 15 usually uses for definitions. So I'm glad to see them, except they just look so strange. Anyway, so how long does your recap take? I don't want to have the audience member not know why we're covering this, so go ahead with your recap, Jackie.
All right, so for the last year, we have been working on the definitions. Part of the priorities with planning and zoning is to review portions of the Title 15. Title 15, you as a commission chose to start with the definitions in general of dwelling, housing, and lodging. There's been some confusion over the past couple years on how things are broke down, and then also with the building department and fire department on how they should inspect these type of operations or housing. So tonight we're looking at just the general from those work sessions, how it will look in code. There's a couple things that I did change. You know, you look at, it looks like there's been a lot removed, but it's not really so much removed as relocated into different sections. You know, from a planning standpoint, you know, everybody in the world knows what a dwelling is, right? Well, maybe they don't. And so I think that to get away from just the word dwelling, you know, if we incorporated and put things back into the code under its actual definition, you know, instead of two-family or duplex, it's a duplex. And we look there and then we see how it's rated or reviewed through the fire department, and we can put those, you know, the group R1, that helps the fire department and the building department, but it also helps the layman that doesn't understand that they go to look at a definition and then they're told, okay, go from here to over here. So that's what we're working on this evening, and hopefully we can make some changes and do some things with it, and then look it forward to bringing it back to you guys for approval.
Okay, so Commission, do any of you have a starting point, or do you want to go page by page, or do one of you have a suggestion on how you'd like to see this covered tonight before I just take it over here?
Well, page by page would be good, but I don't know if we can get through it in an hour, so why don't you just touch on things we all think need to be updated and do it that way.
It took me 2.5 hours to read it.
Wait, I had something on page 6. Do you want to just go with?
Okay,
What was
what
that?
was that?
Happy birthday.
That was,
That was
Madam
Jackie's
Chair, that
phone.
was Jackie's phone. She'll be right back.
Is it her birthday?
Okay,
Oh,
all right, well,
I'll probably need Jackie for some of these, but I just had some items to ask about on 6 and 7.
okay, so Jackie, in the room right now?
She's here.
Sorry, Cindy.
You're breaking up, Tom.
I would like to see us go page to page.
Okay, all right. So, let's start at the, bottom of page 2. Let's just, no changes there, general interpretation. Going to page 3, we're now calling building structures, it looks like, and I believe that's probably taken from the building code, is that correct, Jackie?
Yes, it was a recommendation through the building department and the fire department.
Okay, and if anyone, I'm gonna go rather quickly, if anyone needs to jump in on one of these pages, please get my attention.
I want to jump in.
Go ahead, Tom.
So my question is under number 8, we have a commercial building apartment located in a building. Why do we have a separate description of a commercial building apartment or just an apartment? It seems to be that A could be eliminated unless there's something I'm seeing that doesn't need to be there.
Madam Chair, the reason commercial building apartment was incorporated is because it falls in line with your districts that allow a mixed use. So you would have an apartment building and a laundromat, or apartment building and something else. So that's considered a mixed use, and not all those are allowed in just a regular apartment building.
Okay, but an apartment is still an apartment. I mean, is there somewhere in the code that we distinguish that apartments in a commercial building need to be different than apartment anywhere else?
Yes, when you start doing the uses and requiring conditional uses, there are some buildings that, in a commercial district that you require a CUP for, because it's a mixed building. It has 5 different uses or 3 different uses, and it has housing in it. These definitions were the current and are the definitions taken from not only our code, but the Planner's Dictionary for the nation. And there's a lot of times that you guys, the commission, will be tasked with deciding on whether or not it's a commercial apartment or if it's a commercial mixed use.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to page 3, this term hosted lodging unit is here, and then it comes up later, and for a bed and breakfast, we've now changed our standard, what we call a bed and breakfast, and we're calling it a hosted lodging unit. That means that the business licenses, applications are all gonna have to change with this new verbiage, and where did this verbiage come from?
Madam Chair, the verbiage bed and breakfast is not included in any international or fire code, but hosted or transient/non-transient is incorporated in there. And then as far as changing business licenses, the business licenses and the short-term rental says the word lodging and or whole house on a nightly. So there's no changing of anything. Bed and breakfast was started back in, the early 2000s, and that's, it's morphed over the years. And it is entirely impossible for us to enforce or regulate, that meals be served. You can't, there's no way for us to do that. And there's no way for the fire department nor the building department to inspect on a B&B versus what the hosted is.
Okay, so it comes from the fire department. That's the main thing I wanted to know.
Yes,
We're
hosted
not gonna
lodging.
Change all the stuff, but, okay. I like the word may in there because we're not mandating that if you have a guest staying in your home that you have to see it. That would be ridiculous, so I'm glad it says may. Any other comments on page, 3?
You mean page 4?
You mean page 4?
4, yeah, 4, sorry.
Okay, this is actually where I want to introduce the concept. I spent a lot of time looking over this and finding some areas, working with fire department stuff, this and that, where we're running into a problem with the number of 5 rooms above and 5 rooms below. And right here, we're running into it.
Okay.
On the boarding house, it says, hey, a boarding house, there's a definition for a boarding house, but why can't a boarding house have more than 5 rooms? It doesn't exist. So what I want to do is, in our definition, have a description of lodging greater than 5 rooms and lodging of 5 rooms and less. So like lodging small, lodging large, lodging A, lodging B, I don't know, but we're going to run into it, and you'll see it later on, where we run into a problem where the fire department is considering over 5 rooms to be a standard by which then you need a higher level of fire safety and pleasant. You become a hotel.
Yep.
But have a boarding house that could have more than 5 rooms, but it's not a hotel. And so I wanted to have something here because later on when we go into land use, maybe we allow boarding houses that are more than 5 or something.
Boy,
So anyway,
that was,
at this point in time, we're going to run into it later on, and maybe you'll see where I'm coming from. Keep in mind the concept of over 5 rooms and 5 rooms or less, because it runs into some difficulties later on. And I think, boarding house is an owner-occupied building which is rent or lease for day-to-day basis, not open to transfer. It's other than day-to-day residential occupancy where no cooking and dining facilities are provided. Well, we might have that, but it's not necessarily for 5 rooms.
But isn't over 5 rooms a hotel then, or a motel?
By fire code, yes.
So it's already
that's
covered.
been the standard.
That's the fire department determining to have a sprinkler system over 5, as I recall.
Still the terminology, it's still a 5 hotel, correct?
But this particular, a boarding house is for people longer than short term. They're over 30 days. So they're not a hotel because they're over 30 days.
So it'd be a motel where people can rent, day to day to day to day.
No, a motel is the same thing as a hotel as far as the fire department. It's nightly lodging. It's not meant for over 30 days. It's a different animal. And so we can have boarding houses under 5, boarding houses over 5.
I don't know.
And
Yes, you
did you
could.
discuss that with the fire department, Tom?
You could have
Well,
sprinkled.
it has to do with how they regulate it. When it comes down to it, it's no different than a B&B or a hosted lodging. If you're a hosted lodging and you're over 5 rooms, you become a hotel, regardless of anything else. If you're under 5 rooms or low, then you have a different set of standards. And we see this throughout this whole process, if it's over 5 rooms or under 5 rooms. And there's different style there, but, you know, anyway.
I think we've run into some legal issues if we said, well, boarding houses can have more than 5, but nobody else can unless you're a hotel or motel. I don't know how, that would be a question I'd like to see a legal response to.
And if you're over,
Right, but I think we can park it way through. I mean, there's areas where you say over 5, under 5, and it has to do with the land use. Because basically, if it's under 5 rooms, then it has a different, fire department code.
Right, and I don't know how it comes into land use, it comes into fire code is where, in my mind, and I think I heard Nathaniel and Claire as well say that if it's over 5, it requires different fire service, and that's where the cut is, and where we have to follow that code. So I don't know how we could get by saying a boarding room could have more without having the additional fire suppression services.
No, I think it does. No, we're not talking two different things. If it's over 5 rooms, it has the other requirements.
Okay.
Don't get over 5 rooms, it has the higher requirements.
Okay.
However, it's still a boarding house
Right.
and not a.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So you're saying anything over 5 needs the fire suppression, but it doesn't have to change its name to motel or hotel.
Correct. That's where I'm getting at, because a tribe is okay to have a boarding house, because that's what someone's putting in, or a bunk house, or on and on and on.
All right. Well,
And-
what I've seen in codes is, they say if the fact that the number of rooms makes another code come into effect, then we say we would add a little, C fire code for, C fire code and then quote the same section of fire code. In all of our stuff, if it's more than 5 rooms. So now I go back to you saying we should just have a definition, large or small, and large means you have to have fire suppression, small means you don't.
Right, and I'm just asking at this point in time, we're going to go through this, and I think when I was going through it meticulously, trying to figure this out, I kept running into some issues without, you're having a definition of a boarding house, and the boarding house has a definition. But
Yeah.
then where it became here and there has to do with large or small, because from a legal point of view, a boarding house with 10 rooms is still a boarding house.
Yeah.
By definition. Okay. And so I'm thinking if we go through this and we see like, okay, we really do need to have a large and small, then,
Okay.
then it might work better.
Because a motel could have 5 rooms.
Yes.
Well, you could also have
It
a
could be
motel,
called a
but
motel.
It has a motel, it can be 5 rooms, and we have quite a few of those that required a CUP for it.
Okay. But they wouldn't require fire suppression.
Those 5 they are requested to have it, but it's not one of the conditions in those previous CUPs. Because at the time, that wasn't required for the suppression.
So Jackie, did you ask the fire department my question from earlier today?
Yes, I did. And I spoke to the chief, and he stated that, any type of home that would be rented separate rooms to different individuals, he would not review it. He's like, number one, he said, I don't believe that's allowed without somebody being occupied on the property. And he said that he would not inspect it as a hotel and would then question on whether or not the actual house could be rented to 3 different families.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I understand what Tom's trying to do, I think, and it's more about classification of the definitions. Can we move that to the end of the definition so that we can get through these? and then talk
Yeah.
about, at the end, talk about how we might want to classify them to maybe
Yeah.
make things easier to find, or,
Yeah, maybe just keep a little note and write down where you think the small and the large, I think, you know, how we could address that. So is that okay, Tom, we're moving on?
Yeah, actually, that was my suggestion, is just to keep it in mind as we go through, and if you see where I was running into problems, you see that later on, it might come in and we could, yes.
Okay. All right, so under dwelling, I don't know why we don't have a capital for means, or why it says means. I don't know where it means any building. It just starts weird. Defines any building, I don't know. That's just semantics there. So that's got a.
That's just taken out of the, that definition was just taken out of the code from, the fire code. So I can just do it, so means is taken out and just any building.
Okay, so there was, it says that a dwelling, is to provide year-round living. So everything under this should encompass things that are for year-round living. But we get down to a guest house, and in the words it says, an accessory building occupied on a temporary basis solely by non-paying guests.
Yes, I wanted to move that.
That in there.
To be honest, I think guest house should be under your accessory structure. Or just under guest house, but it shouldn't be under dwelling. Basically, my understanding is the guest house, is for family members, you're not making any money off of it, and so family members may move into it and it wouldn't even be on, you know, maybe they're there for 6 months or 3 months, but it's just a holder that states that you can't rent it out and make it into a nightly lodging.
Well, then take the word temporary out of it, because you're saying that you're putting it in an area that says you're providing year-round living for residential occupancy. Just let's remove an accessory building occupied by non-paying guests.
Okay, I put it,
But does that mean that it's now occupied all the time by non-paying guests? Do we just need to move it out of there and keep the temporary? Because to me, guest house is not something we're gonna live all the time. That would be an apartment.
so if we moved guest house, just under G for guest house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would work.
Okay,
Thanks, Nathaniel.
So,
Okay, anybody else on that page 5, did you see anything?
Yeah, on number 32, it says in parentheses, rooming house. I don't think we have a definition for rooming house. I think that's a bunk house or something else.
where?
Where are you at?
That was the bottom under, behind
Oh.
family.
Family, and it goes down for a group occupying.
Oh, it says rooming house.
Oh, then you could say bunk house or something, but rooming house, we don't have a definition anywhere for rooming house. It shouldn't be.
I will change that.
Okay.
should we also
down,
do something
still have
about
a lot of-
fraternity house?
We still have a lot of C, C, C. I don't know why we're doing that. Why are we just?
Madam Chair,
I guess-
can I tell you the reason it says CCC on everything is because at the last work session, there was a clear defined line to me that some of you wanted to incorporate them all under, like how an apartment is, and then some of you wanted to have them under their actual names. I, for one, like I said earlier, think that for the layman, it's just better to have them under the regular names and get rid of all of these, you know, group care home would say what the definition of that is. And we get rid of the C housing or C this, but I need,
I agree.
okay. Do I have a lot of head shakes of yes, you agree? Okay,
yes.
then that will be changed.
Okay. So then we have guest room, a room used or intended to be used by one or more guests for living or sleeping purposes.
That's right out of the fire code, by the way.
Okay. All right, then we go to, I'm on page 6, everybody. Hostel, and it looks like that's from the fire code. And then we come to the hosted lodging unit, which sounds like the old definition of a B&B.
It just doesn't make you provide meals.
Okay, right before that, I under hostel,
Yeah,
a building or portion thereof, it says in which temporary or overnight lodging. I think we can eliminate temporary or overnight because lodging by definition is temporary and overnight.
Okay,
So it should just say in a portion thereof, that by, lodging is provided for cycle and anyway, and then it says see lodging, but if we already have lodging in there, we don't need to see lodging, we already have it. So I'm just gonna take out, because again, it's wordy and, confusing.
yeah, and a lot of these that I put the definitions and then I have C lodging is so they will see the lodging code, and I've done it 2 different ways, and I would like to just reference the code number. That gives gives anybody the ability, and not, not that you guys are gonna be on the commission for the next 20 years, but in 20 years, we know that a hostel is lodging, and then they have to follow the lodging code. So I'll reference it that way.
so,
Okay.
under hosted lodging unit, the last sentence, why did you leave out the word hosted? Now
Oh.
we're going back to lodging unit.
I don't know.
Let's add it.
I got it.
Also under hosted housing unit, the owner occupied needs to be taken out.
On which
So
part?
a dwelling- the owner occupied, we can have a hosted lodging unit that's not owner occupied. We have them all over.
It needs
We
to,
can each say, go ahead.
this definition is specifically out of the fire code, and it falls into line, I mean, you could put owner manager occupied, but it falls into line where somebody needs to be present. Needs to
Correct.
live on
So
the,
what I wrote down was hosted lodging unit, a dwelling operator occupied and sleeps at the dwelling unit while it is being rented. A room or group of rooms in which sleeping accommodations are furnished for compensation, and meals and other services may be provided by the operator to any individual, not a family member. So I just wanted to say the operator occupies rather than owner occupies, and the first part of it was eliminated.
okay,
Because we also have situations where it's not because we have central business in other areas where it's not necessarily a residence. So I think it's more encompassing for our needs.
to put
Hosted
operated.
lodging unit.
Operator.
Is there agreement that owners should just say operator in that, definition?
I got a lot of heads
Yeah.
and thumbs up, so I will make sure that's done.
Okay. So now we get back to, thinking about the large and small, lodging. We have a hotel.
Okay, yes.
Okay, and now, that must come right from the fire code. This whole new residential group R1, this new, I mean, it's kind of, I haven't wrapped my head around it yet, because we have R1, R2, R3, ROR, I mean, in this, I don't get
I
where
will-
residential group R1 falls.
So I will put IBC or IFC in front of that. So,
Yeah.
and then that will help because it's not our code, it's their grouping that they have to review off of. So I will make sure to put IBC or IFC on it.
Right, but it will become our code if this ordinance passes.
Correct. But like
It already is our code. It's our code because we have to follow those two codes, but we don't cross-reference as much as we should, and that's what we're trying to say.
correct. So I'll make sure that those initials are in there so we have that ability to say this is why we reference it as a residential group R1.
Okay.
So the other thing I think you should add in there where it says included lodges and inns, it should say included motels, lodges, and inns. Because a motel is just a hotel with a different description.
Well, yeah, and I don't even know if we define in our code, so let's
We
not
don't.
put words in that we're not defining.
So
I agree with that.
we're getting rid of inn
Inns
and
should just be
motel.
completely eliminated, they don't really have a real meaning.
Okay, got it.
I don't know why it says that at all. I mean.
Because you guys had it in there.
Anything that fits in the definition is, I mean, it might say motel, it might say lodge, it might say inn. So maybe right behind hotel in parentheses, you say, i.e. lodges, motels, and inns. Because
Or-
they all fit into that.
The other way to handle this, under the definitions where it says motel, you say see hotel. It says inn, see hotel. It says lodge, hotel.
Yeah, that would work.
And then it's either large or small. You have a lodge, it's small, it's actually the same as a, hosted lodging unit. Because they call it a lodge, doesn't mean it's not a hosted lodging unit or it's not a hotel.
So the difference between, in the planning world, the difference between a hotel and a motel, a hotel doesn't have, you access everything from a front door. So you go in through a front door to a guest or to your room. A motel is where you have separate rooms, you pull in and you can go right to the guest counter, but you go right into your room. There's no hallways, there's no accesses, it's just in and out. So, a good definition of that in aspects around here is you have the gateway hotel, where you walk through a door and into the rooms. And then you have the Breeze Inn Motel that you pull up and can go into the rooms.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think
It
we all
has
know,
a free, and the Breeze Inn has a second story, you go upstairs and you have to go through things. And, they put motels that have the two stories. But I guess my question is there a difference in the building code for a motel that you don't go through the central entrance? I mean, I think the building code says, hey, if you have more rooms, you still have to meet the other.
I will double check with them on it.
Okay. Because if they have to follow the same code, then as far as, and I understand there's a difference between a motel and somebody wants to say, oh, I have a motel. Well, it's a different description, but is it actually acting differently from a license point of view?
Right,
Or
and
from
I'll ask the fire department and the building department.
Okay.
okay. So we're moving on to housing unit, and now we have a bunch of things listed under housing unit.
But we just discussed, I'm gonna move all of those into to their actual definitions. So housing unit will have its own definition, but bunkhouse, convalescent, dormitory, group care, and halfway house will be under their own. Instead of seeing housing, it will be under whatever its definition is.
Okay, I have a question regarding the convalescent or nursing home. It states that living rooms where persons are housed or lodged and are furnished with meals, nursing, and medical care. I believe that should say or medical care.
Yes,
Don't
it
think you have
should.
to have all three of those.
Yes, it should.
Thanks.
Okay, and I have and this is something, this is actually something that came up from our discussion with the Ports and Commerce over across the way, bunkhouse. Right now, it describes a bunkhouse as a building used for living quarters for persons, for people such as sanitary workers or construction workers, where showers and sanitary facilities are shared, and in which there are no individual cooking facilities. I would like to eliminate the shower and sanitary facilities are shared, where it just says bunkhouse is a building used as living quarters for people such as sanitary workers or construction laborers, where there is no individual cooking facility. And I think this comes from, there's a historic point where people were kind of totally okay, and even when I moved up here, it was like, hey, everybody had common bathrooms. But today, people don't like their common bathrooms. And so I think a bunkhouse is still a bunkhouse, even though a room has its own bathroom.
Yep.
Okay, so is everybody in agreement with that? Do I have shakes?
Does it cross over to any other definitions when you do that?
I always thought bunkhouse was defined by
Sharing.
Sharing
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
sanitary
Absolutely.
areas,
I can,
not separate.
That's what qualifies as a bunkhouse. They're all- It's sort of like a barracks.
Exactly.
Yeah, because aren't you a hotel then?
Yes, or an apartment or something like that.
Yeah,
The whole idea of it is that you share, you know, the facilities on a temporary basis because you're there doing a job. You're not living there full time for an extended area. Otherwise, it would be an apartment or,
right, or a
Studio or
hotel.
something small.
yeah. So I think it needs to stay in there, but I could get rid of cannery workers and laborers because I don't know if we need to define who needs to live there. As long as it's
Right.
just, you know, this type
A
of,
bunkhouse isn't short term. A bunkhouse could be someone that's there for the duration, 6 months. They're not a short term thing.
well,
But-
duration of the
And
job is
I think
technically
it's-
short term.
Sure, yeah. And just what people consider.
temporary.
Temporary.
Why can't we just say building used as living quarters for people in which there are no, or building used as living quarters? I don't know why it says for people, it's not for horses. As living quarters in which there are no individual cooking facilities.
But
Or showers.
Yeah, because now you're a hotel.
you're a
Yeah.
hotel if you're right, so.
But a hotel is by definition short term. A bunkhouse isn't short term. I really put a lot of thought into this when I was going through this, in the needs of like cannery or laborers and stuff like that. And I really thought about this after our discussion with Ports and Commerce on the other side, where they're saying, hey, they're having somebody come in, they're coming up to work on something, they'll be here for 2 months, they're a $60,000 or an $80,000 a year employee, they're specialized in what they do, and you're going like, okay, it's okay to have a bunkhouse and industrial, but it's not hotel, but the hotel is a different definition. But we're trying to get these, we're trying to allow some place where there's lodging for people that are, semi, but but just today, in virtually everything you do, the concept of in the rooms or private bathrooms is something that's standard, where 50, 100 years ago it was uncommon. And I really think a bunkhouse today, it's okay to have private bathrooms, and it's still a bunkhouse.
So Tom, is your definition of the bunkhouse then like primarily in an industrial setting or to support?
Well,
Is that?
I think it's anywhere. I just think the definition of a bunkhouse and what people would be considering a bunkhouse is not the same as it was 50 years ago.
I get that, but I'm trying to get I'm trying to get some differentiation between a hotel and a bunkhouse.
A hotel is short-term and a bunkhouse is long-term.
You can rent a hotel for 2 months.
So so everybody knows, a bunkhouse under the planning definitions is for temporary employment, and it has shared bathrooms and laundry.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I was in a bunkhouse for 2 years in the Army, and you walk quarter mile to get to the bathroom. So most of us went around the back of the building.
The bunkhouse is
Hey, well,
temporary housing because you came there to do a job, and your home you left, which is your permanent housing. And whether the job is 2 weeks or 6 months, you're still going home after the job.
What if
So
you put-
technically it's temporary?
A building used as living quarters for temporary employment. That gets rid of the people, canneries, and
Yeah.
where shower and sanitary facilities are shared and in which there are no individual cooking
How
facilities.
about maybe shared? That might take care of
May,
some.
yes,
too.
because
I
then
like that, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
maybe
Could
shared.
be maybe, I think the cooking facilities can't be, because you had individual cooking in their apartments. Right. So
Okay.
It's not the same thing as apartments, so the cooking facilities need to be,
Remove.
no individual cooking facilities.
So
Right,
a building used as living quarters for temporary employment where showers and well, wait. I need to rewrite this.
I mean, just think of KFC and they have their bunkhouse. Would it be okay for KFC and their bunkhouse to have individual, sanitary systems? And
Okay.
if you're looking at kind of a higher end, employee, you might want to provide that.
A building
Well, if
used
we
as,
say why don't we just go with temporary employees where sanitary facilities may be shared?
may
and
be
in
shared,
which there are no individual cooking facilities.
that's what I put.
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's perfect.
I just
No
want,
problem with that.
I just want to make sure we don't get into a spot where we're defining bunkhouse as almost a hotel, and then somebody squeezes a bunkhouse into somewhere where there should be a hotel. They label it bunkhouse and rent out like a hotel and say, well, I'm abiding by the rules, even though there should be a hotel there. Because there should be a hotel in some of these places. But bunkhouses, technically, it makes sense to have one there. So I don't like putting a wiggle room in there because they're clearly two different things. And if you want a nicer bunkhouse, I don't know,
then build an extended stay
yeah,
hotel.
build an extended stay hotel or a manager's unit or,
I mean, you could do it for both.
yeah. I don't know, just wanna make sure that doesn't happen because too many mays and ifs and we end up with all kinds of things we don't want.
Okay, I'll retract what I might have said.
So we're gonna leave the word "are" shared.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's a good idea, because we have bunkhouses that are at the, whether it's Polar Seafoods or the KFT, they range significantly in their accommodations, so to speak, and the niceties, but, because I've been in plenty of the bunkhouses for the fisheries, and they are shared facilities, they are bunkhouses, and they go eat somewhere else, and they wind up taking showers in a shared, pretty much shared environment, almost like a barracks.
Yeah, but shared bathroom can be really nice. You don't have to share a bathroom with 15 rooms.
Oh, sure.
You can share it with,
It could be a Jack and Jill bathroom.
yeah. Like,
So, Nathaniel, you were saying something like the extended stay, but isn't an extended stay a bunkhouse?
No.
no.
Not a
No.
hotel. But what if you allow somebody said it's okay for, extended stay, but it's not okay for nightly? I mean, what's that situation?
I
mean, really, extended stay, I see, is really just truly a bunkhouse. And you have large or small. If it's large, it's, one thing, if it's small, it's another thing.
bunkhouses are different than hotels, and I
Yes.
don't see why we can't have it pretty much say what it is versus the people's positions and jobs. And, if you're trying to, I understand the port area over there trying to entice skilled higher wage workers that, you know, like they were saying, don't want to live in a bunkhouse. But bunkhouses don't have to be huge and sharing in this gross area. I lived in a bunkhouse for years, and we shared a bathroom with and a kitchen area with 2 rooms, and it was really nice. If you know, a high quality worker wouldn't have a problem spending 2 to 4 months in something like that. It's not you don't have to walk down the hallway to a gang shower. You know.
I don't have a problem with your, I think you're right.
Okay, can we move on to that one?
We'll move on.
Do you have that one now, Jackie?
Yes.
All right. Any other on page 6? Because then we pick down to page 7, and I'm like, wait a minute. Where's the lettering? How are we fitting these institutional group 1, 2, and
Well, I just
3?
put them under I. I just put them
You
on.
can't just throw those in there. They
Well-
have to have some numbers in front of them or something.
Well, because the numbering is going to be all screwed up until I got approval, then I will go in and make sure the numbering is correct. But you look at like number 49 for lodging, because we've added different definitions in where, like, let's just use halfway house. Instead of having it say C housing, that's not a number in the definitions, but now we're making it a number. So everything will be numbered. I just didn't do the numbering because I didn't know how you guys wanted to incorporate them. So I just put institutional under I.
So we will have numbers by.
So
Yes.
those will
Okay.
have numbers. All right.
So, Jackie, I have a question, and it's just, I'm not sure where this comes from, but the institutional group, you talk about why it's 16 persons or more.
That is specifically straight out of the fire code. This is, I literally copy and pasted it because this is how your fire department does their inspections. They look at it and say, okay, well, has more than 16 people and I need to inspect XYZ. So that's why I took these, because I'm constantly asked by the fire department, how do you rate this? Is it institutional? And I'm like, I don't, how do you rate it?
Okay, well, I'm not ready to fight that hurdle. It was just a question. I just put a question mark there. That's a fine answer to this.
I have a question.
So, when a lay person comes in, not a fire person, and looks at this and say it's number 48, just because 49 is following it, and you're gonna go, okay, do any of those pertain to me in my institutional building?
So, Madam Chair, I just took the generic definitions, but each one of these has a breakdown of what they look at. So, if you pull, like, if I pulled right now IFC and went to institutional group 1-1, it's gonna say also includes things like hotel, motel, and it breaks it down. I just did not incorporate those. I'm glad to do it, but I figured I'd just try to keep it as condensed as possible. But there are definitions and examples of what qualifies as these institutional groups.
Are we on page 7
Okay.
now?
Yes.
Can I go back to the bottom of page 6? There was 2 quick things
Okay.
I wanted to bring
Yeah.
up. One, and base, Tom brought it up earlier, but in 44D, we mentioned alcoholism and drug treatment centers. Do we need to define those? Because on the previous deal, we said rooming house was mentioned and fraternity house was mentioned. We needed to either define them or remove them.
And so one of the things is I understand the removal of things if it's not in the code, but from a planner standpoint, you know, the code doesn't need to be the Webster's dictionary. It can be, but normally if we're looking at what that is, we would look it up either in the planner's guide or the Webster's dictionary and fall off of that definition. I mean, there's a lot of things that are listed throughout the code, not in just Title 15, that we should, you know, that people can question or request to be added. But I think that's why we got to where we had 15 different definitions of dwelling.
So you're saying that we're not going to define what a drug treatment center is?
Well, right now, the way the code is, if somebody questioned what a drug treatment center was, I would pull up the Webster's dictionary and give that definition. We can gladly, it's up to you, it's not up to me, if you guys want to start adding those type of definitions.
Would that type of facility be defined somewhere else?
No.
No, I mean, would it be like institutional group 1-2 or 1-1 or?
Yeah, it'd be in one of those. I believe it was under, I'd have to look back at the definitions and the breakdown, but I think it's in the group I-2.
So, under institutional group 1-1, the last sentence says, buildings of group 1-1 shall be classified as one of the occupancy conditions specified in section 30821 or section 30822. But
And it
doesn't
should say of the IFC.
Oh,
What?
yeah, I couldn't find it, that's why.
It should say of the International Fire Code. I apologize.
Right, but under institutional group 1-2 and 1-3, it doesn't say where you can find those. So, is there a place where you can find buildings classified as 1-2
Yes.
and 1-3?
I'll include it all, because it is in that same section, and I'll just put the words,
Right at the end.
yeah, at the end. That's the IFC. Gary has his hand up and has been very patient, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Gary.
Thank you. We've been on 7 pages for 55 minutes. We got 30 minutes left to do another 85 pages. Are we gonna be on this all year? I think she's done
No,
a
one more
great job.
meeting,
Why
yeah.
do we have to nitpick every word?
Because we just have to work through it. It's long, arduous, but it's what we have to do.
Do we have a termination period on this? At some time we want to be done with it? Or is this
Yep,
just
we
gonna
do.
continue until I get fired?
No, you're not gonna get fired, Gary. I know we need to get through it, and we will. We will within the next couple of months. We'll finish this.
Okay.
It's correct, I was thinking we were racing through this.
So I hate to do this
Okay.
now, but I have one. So, is there a reason why, I think I might know this, but is there a reason why halfway house is not on the land use table?
Yes.
Is what? What?
I've researched, I can tell you that at certain times they got added on because a lease was done and that wording was in it, or somebody came along and said, hey, I want a definition of this, and then they didn't cross-reference it or put it in the land use table. They literally just put a definition in. There are so many things in our land use table that are listed that we don't have definitions for.
But should we, if we have a definition for it, should we have it on our land use table?
It would be probably smart.
Okay. Well, I'd like us to be more probably smart than not, so if we could make a note of that.
Yep, I will put it, and
And
then
then
when we
with the-
discuss land use table, we can make sure it's
Yeah, and
added.
then the institutional groups, then if we're gonna go by those, and if those are gonna encompass a bunch of facilities.
Cross-reference it.
Got it,
Okay, thank you.
got it.
When we get finished
Moving
with this,
on
with
to
this,
logic.
I would like to see this and the land use table
Yeah.
They'll have to.
cohesive. Because there are some discrepancies.
Mhm.
And it would like you to, if they're gonna define things, they need to be both places.
Right.
And where they're allowed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and where they're allowed.
Yep.
Anyway, we keep going.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Sorry, Gary.
Okay, we're on 49 lodging.
Where are we?
49.
Page 7.
Page
We're
7.
still on page 7, okay.
Yes, Madam
The only
Chair.
thing I had there, because we're trying to eliminate the word bed and breakfast, because it has no real meaning, we're using hosted lodging unit. I think where it says this includes boarding houses, hosted lodging units, in parentheses, bed and breakfast, etc.
Okay.
I don't think bed and breakfast should have its own line.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's
Okay, and then when they have the line through, it means, we're not gonna have those things.
Well, I moved those to the other areas in the code, but this is where they were listed, so I wanted to show that it was gonna be moved.
Okay. So, now I'm on page 8.
Woo!
70 more to go.
Modular home, we've got C dwelling, so under dwelling, there's, the word for modular home, whatever. That's it.
Yep, and like I said before, we're gonna move all of those to where they're under their actual name.
Right,
And modular homes, we discussed this, you know, we're like, well, we don't have mobile homes and we don't allow modular homes. But reading the definition basically states it's a factory-built resident structure that's transported in one or more sections. Tiny homes right now are they're produced and they're transported, and then you remove the axles. So we need to leave modular home in there because that does fall under that category.
okay. So, did you pull the definition for motel from, the building code?
I did, and I've also written next to it to check with fire to see if we can merge them together or how they inspect them from previous discussion.
So I had a question on where it gets into multi-story units. Is that self-explanatory? Is there some reason we need to have multi-story
So-
units in this code?
We do. This is one of the exact wording that I received. What I did was I sent our original code to both fire and building and asked them to look at everything and tell me how they inspected. And building department said that in the code, they are either described as townhouses or multi-story units. And so he needed us to have the definition of what a multi-story unit is based off, and so if you go to townhouse, it says commonly known as.
Okay. And then, I guess you're defining owner, that an owner, like you can't submit a plat for recording unless you're the owner requesting that change. You have to have a holding interest or title to the property. So, but it also says any person, agent, operator, entity, firm, or corporation having any legal or equitable interest in the property. So it kind of comes in all those names, but I think the gist of it is it has to have some legal or equitable interest in the property to be called the owner.
And that's where the, changing owner occupied under the hosted lodging.
We changed it to operator.
You turned it to operator, but in our code, if the definition of an owner states agent, operator, or entity, so it gives you that ability to,
No, because you have to have legal or equitable interest in the property. An operator doesn't, if we use the term
do if they're getting paid.
owner has to have legal or equitable interest.
Madam Chair,
Doesn't.
Madam Chair,
How about if we put it this way, you could have an operator that doesn't have legal interest, or you could have an operator that does have legal interest. But to be an owner, the operator has to have legal interest.
And I think it says that in here, and I just wanted to make that point, that
Right.
sometimes it has to be the owner that does it, or says it, or is there. Sometimes
An owner-
it will be a hired operator.
depends on the zone.
The court would recognize.
I didn't get that last part, but I'm ready to move on.
Oh. Yep, move on, I think it's okay.
Okay, then now we're into some more building or fire code.
Both.
What page are we on now?
8.
8.
8?
We're halfway down.
Yeah, running.
So the only thing I have in there is under that short-term rental, SDRs, which says bed and breakfast, I think that needs to be eliminated, or under hosted lodging unit, comma,
Let's change the name.
or
Yep.
parentheses,
Change the
bed and
name.
breakfast. Just
Gone.
trying to eliminate that description.
Yep. Got it.
Okay,
Okay.
are we ready to, sleeping unit, I think is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I'm
Are
good.
we still on 8, or are we going to 9?
We're on 9.
9,
The only thing under townhouse, it has, line 3, it says walls without opening. I think that needs to be penetration. Only because I live in a townhouse and I know it can't be openings, it can't need to be penetration. So that would
there's,
be,
there's another, I think it's, where is that one? There's a verbiage like what you're saying earlier in your document.
there is, and earlier it said no penetration.
Yeah,
This
so let's keep
definition
that
has no
similar.
opening. It should be no penetration, without penetration.
I agree. Openings imply something larger. Penetration is everything.
Because I could have a cable wire going from one side to the other.
Okay,
No penetration. Very distinctive, it's different.
Yeah.
That's just a question thing, cleaning it up. Okay, and then down under, AB, then it has, definition, hosted lodging unit. So again, switching, operator, or owner to operator. And then, owner to be furnished by the operator, eliminate owner, and then on the last run, it shall not contain, in my case, where I have basically a hosted lodging unit, and I'm in central business, so I don't, that 60% doesn't contain.
Can I,
So I think we can hit that later on,
okay,
but the 5 bedrooms does affect us. I think it needs to be rent more than 5 bedrooms, because that's, anyway, that's how the fire department is currently doing things.
the fire department currently is doing it like that, but just so you're aware, if it's an 11-bedroom house and they're renting 5 of those rooms, they go in to inspect the 5 rooms that the person says they're renting and ignores the other 6 rooms, and then that person starts renting other rooms. They cannot classify what rooms are being rented. So if you just make it so it's no more than 5 rooms, then we don't have to that, we don't have to work on the, is it 50%? Is it 6 of the 5 or 11 rooms? Is it 5 of the 11 rooms? What 11 rooms is it? Which one should I be inspecting? Because it happens quite often.
If you have 11 rooms, you want to rent them, you become a hotel.
You'd become a hotel, correct. But it is extremely hard on not only community development side, but the inspecting side. When we're sending them out to do life safety inspections and they're shown 5 rooms, and then we find out later on that those 5 rooms that they inspected aren't even the ones they're renting. So this gives the ability for us to, you know, maybe in that 11-bedroom house, 6 of the rooms don't have the proper egress. Is it really a bedroom? Is it something they've added on to? And so they have us inspect the rooms that are actually compliant, but they're not renting those out. They're renting out the ones that are non-compliant. It just gives such an open-ended area for our fire department to go in and know that only 5 of those 11 rooms are being rented.
Right. So, but our definition here says, and it should say a hosted lodging unit shall not contain more than 5 bedrooms. So what if somebody has and I'm just gonna take my situation. I have an apartment and 5 rooms that are rented out. Well, according to this, then I can't do that. Because it's contained more than 5, and that apartment has a bedroom, that makes 6.
So if
So
we,
it says 8. And so that's why I said it needs to say a hosted lodging unit shall not rent more than 5 bedrooms.
shall not
And
rent.
you're right, if you put into a situation where somebody says, oh, I'm only renting 5 rooms, I have 7 rooms, but as soon as they start renting more than 5 rooms at a single moment in time, which our new software that we're getting the information allows us to see that, then they're in violation. But I mean, people are doing illegal things, we can't try and solve that with our definitions. Our definitions still have to be clear.
So, Tom, you would like the last line to say, a hosting lodging unit shall not rent more than 5 bedrooms.
Correct.
And that, Jackie, that won't really solve the problem the fire department has and the planning department has on that you go in and inspect 5, but they're renting different 5. So I don't know, we'll have to wrap our head around that and figure out how to.
And again,
solve
this is literally taken out of the fire code. So I will talk to the fire department and I will make sure that when we bring this forward again, that I either have the fire chief and the building inspector or just one of them so they can answer the questions on their level.
Okay, yeah.
Jackie, I think
They
what you're
probably
trying
need
to do,
updating too.
I think what Jackie's trying to do is the right thing. So, but I understand where Tom's coming from too. So somewhere maybe we can find some middle ground.
Yeah.
Without going too far one way or the other.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll after tonight, I'll put together and then deciding on whether or not we bring it forward at the next meeting or we have another work session, I'll make sure that they're here to answer the questions that I'm not an inspector. So,
You're over 5 rooms, you're a hotel, health and safety, you need to act like one. And if you're
Yeah.
below 5, you're below 5, and that's just how the cookie crumbles.
and
But is it because you're renting? Yeah, I think we need some help on that because is it 5 rooms under one roof because you have an apartment and 5 rooms in your house? I mean, we just. need a little
and one
help.
of the things that I've said in the past at multiple of these meetings when we've talked about lodging, on the aspect of how we look at the definition, at the end of the day, the life safety portion is where I really go towards. And when a fire department pulls up on a house that they believe is a single family house, and there's a family standing out front that says, yep, we're all out, them not knowing that there's somebody in the basement or there was somebody upstairs, it puts our police officers, our firefighters, and everybody at harm's way not knowing. So we'll let them give us the way that they inspect it and how it would fall for us to be able to make that workable in a central business district, or how that works. So I put that as a note.
Okay. All right, we are on page, well, all that other stuff comes straight from the fire code evidently, and I just need you to somehow list those definitions. I know that the fire code is our code, but just write where in the fire code those are found. So short-term rental, and I'm on page 10, I'm moving.
So on page 10, I had a little note here. I'm not sure what the difference between short rental and whole house nightly. Why we have two different definitions there?
So house on a nightly is the whole entire house. That is only included and allowed in your R3, UR, OR, AC, and CB districts. Short-term rental is the encompassment of what the whole program is. Lodging / short-term rental. It means that it's not for annual purposes. It's normally for day-to-day. And the whole house, again, falls under that short-term rental, but gives the definition of that it's a non-hosted dwelling, that, the owner or the agent is not required to live there. And that's, where your hosted lodging unit falls into play, being only allowed in R1, R2, RR, and R3, and UR. So the whole house nightly is only allowed in 5 of the districts.
But, okay, so I'm looking at this, it says short-term rental, STR, describes the furnished self-contained home that are rented for short periods of time, usually by day or operated as as opposed to an annual rental in an unfurnished, as opposed to an annual rental in an unfurnished apartment. I'm looking at the definition you have here, and they're exactly the same.
So is that
Well,
something?
so it needs to have a different definition, because their definition here, as I'm reading, they're the same.
Yeah.
Well, I think a short-term rental encompasses whole house nightly and also a couple of other.
And hosted lodging unit and.
Okay, well, I agree. I'm just wondering if it needed to be distinguished differently.
Like
But
maybe
maybe it's fine.
self-contained homes,
I think it's okay.
short-term rental.
Okay, okay, I'm
That's
just,
your problem.
okay, we're fine, so let's go on.
Anyway.
Okay, I don't even know where that's number 1 under lodging. We're still under lodging?
Well, Madam Chair, this is under the other this isn't under definitions. This is under your land uses allowed, which is 1510-226. You guys have breakdowns of the different, and so under short-term rental, which was lodging, we've included the definitions that are the requirements that were spoke about and talked about when we initiated the original short-term lodging application. So, the requirements, what I did was, instead of having those places that say not more than 50% or single family, I broke it down to where it fit within the fire code and the building code. So if you see, the number 1 is absolute. We require all these things to happen. The parking is absolute. That's part of our 1510-220-215. And then I removed the no cooking facilities. I didn't remove it. I just moved it down under hosted lodging unit, which shows where it's allowed. And I also changed, took away the within single and two family residential districts and made that under hosted lodging unit. And then put what districts this type of lodging is allowed.
Okay, so now we're actually defining hosted lodging unit.
Yes.
So, okay,
Well, we're actually, right now, we're restricting hosted lodging units in R1, 2, and 3 to be owner occupied.
Well, they were already limited as a lodging, as a home occupation within an owner occupied dwelling. If right above that, number 4 is the actual code. And we have just, instead of saying to rent not more than 50% of the bedrooms to a maximum of 5, we took that away and put, just reworded it to where what hosted lodging unit is referred to as in the building code and the fire code. But I'm not restricting, it's already been like that.
No, but we wrote it earlier as a hosted lodging unit could be was run by an operator rather than an owner.
But also,
Here we're
the code in the owner, the code definition of your owner pulls in an agent or operator. So it says that, we're saying an owner, but if you wanted to look at the definition of what an owner is, it says agent or operator.
okay, but that's a different operator. We talked about it when we were talking about it. You can have an operator that has a legal right to be, that has, legal connection, or you can have an operator that's not a.
Well,
You can have an operator.
in our lodging permit, it specifically states, it asks who the owner of the property is, and then it asks if anybody else is managing it. And so then that's legal because you as the owner have signed off that this person is managing it for you. And you're the owner saying, this is the person that's living on there, doing the maintenance, doing the things. All we're concerned with is that somebody's living there and that you're not renting out the whole house.
Okay, but also under the owner, it says, property by the court. I mean, that manager you described doesn't necessarily have a court right.
I will, I wrote next to the owner to talk with legal, so I'll make sure that the legal agrees
And I'm
or
okay
that we.
with that. I think the owner has to be, when you say the word owner, that's somebody that has a legal right in court or a legal, an actual interest, a financial interest in it.
Okay, I'll
So I
ask.
think we can.
yeah, ask legal to define owner and, operator, because an operator couldn't sell the property, the owner can.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll have them look at it. I just know that the other codes in other cities, that's how owner is listed. So I will make sure with legal that we're looking at it the same way.
And it might not, like Cindy was saying, is go to court and sell. It's who can take it to like small claims court? Does the operator have the right to take something to small claims court? I mean, it's more simpler than that. But anyway, this is where I guess this is where I'm looking at.
That would be.
Are we looking at restricting hosted lodging units in R1, 2, and 3, or R1 and 2, where they're truly operated by an owner? And this is the question here. Or are we saying like, okay, I own a house in R1, and I'm going to be gone for a couple of years. I'm going to hire a manager to go in there, or maybe I'll you know, somebody living in that and operating that, hosted lodging unit for me. And,
Well, and
you know,
that's where, you know, past discussions have been, do you want to make sure that the owner of the home is who's living there and there all the time? Or do you want to have a neighborhood that has the ability of having a manager live there and not knowing who's there? Like, it is a question that is brought up many times throughout the public, especially in an R1 and an R2 district. It's literally questioned. I want to know who my neighbors are, and if Jane Doe owns the house, I want to know that Jane Doe is who's renting the house and is operating this hosted lodging. I don't want a management company to say, yes, we're hosting it for them, and we don't know like what's happening in the walls. I mean, it's one of those things that is questioned quite often in our department, and I just, you know, it is always, not that it needs to always be like this, but it's one of those things that when this started, the discussion of, you know, and I'll go back to Cindy's ground truthing. The whole purpose of a portion of the ground truthing was, do you want neighborhoods to be neighborhoods, or do you want neighborhoods to have these occupied areas that are only transient and they're only ran because the person's left for the summer, and you know, you don't know who your neighbors are? And it is questioned. I've always been told that the lodging is limited to a home occupation within an owner occupied dwelling. That is how you guys have always had that definition, and that is strictly for R1 and R2 districts. And then it's been incorporated into the RR and the R3 because those are housing areas, those are neighborhoods, and people didn't want to lose that neighborhood feeling. And I will check with legal, but I don't, right now, today, if the planning and zoning and the council said, hey, we're not going to allow nightly lodging or B&Bs in an R1 or R2 district, it would put 27 houses on the market for either long-term rental and or owners living in it.
It used to be that way a while ago.
And it's changed over the years, and so we need to, you know, we need to realize that yes, it's a very lucrative business and people enjoy it, but you also have to look at the fact that you have people that have bought their homes in an R1 district that are like, we want to know who our neighbors are, and now we no longer do because we're allowing people to rent them out.
Okay, we have 2.5 pages left on this ordinance, and then the second part that we were trying to get to, the land management plan, which is on our priorities that we will address in our meeting. Our meeting is supposed to start in 2 minutes. So I think our work session has accomplished a lot, but we will schedule another work session at our meeting, okay?
Sounds good.
Well, sounds good, and what Jackie brought up is exactly my point, is that I think at this point in time, we can say that it's an owner occupied in R1, R2, R3, and that is, you know, that defines that it's different than where we have collected symbols, so,
Okay.
that's really positive.
All right. I'm gonna, can we recess for 5 minutes and call back in, or do we have to stay online?
You can do either or. What would you like? Would you like us to call back in, or can we just mute you?
I'm just gonna, if you could mute me for 3 minutes, that'd be great. I'm gonna go get some water.
Okay, we're just gonna turn off the recording altogether.
Adjourn 6:58.
Okay, thank you.
Mute her for 30 minutes. Jackie, I think.
Okay, we're ready, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'd call to order the May 4th, 2021 meeting of the Stuart Planning and Zoning Commission. Commissioner Steve, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes, ma'am. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Tonight's roll call. Sullivan,
Here.
Charbonneau,
Here.
Verhey.
She's excused.
Oh, thank you. Cease,
Here.
Swan,
Here.
Ambrosiani,
Here.
Chair Eklund.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, we're on item 4, citizen comments on any subject except those items scheduled for public hearing. Do we have anyone signed in?
I do not.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak at this time?
There is not.
Okay, I will close public hearing and take us to item number 5, approval of agenda and consent agenda. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda?
Madam Chair, if I can just ask, it's a sort of a housekeeping thing, but number 9.1, it should say resolution 2021.
Yes, okay. That's kind of housekeeping.
Then I would like to
So
pull,
do we need to have a motion for that, or can we just do
No.
housekeeping?
No, I just wanted to make sure that it was aware, Rue was aware.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes,
I would like to pull item 5 from the consent agenda.
approval of April 6, 2021 regular meeting minutes.
Correct.
Is there a second?
You don't need a second. Thank you.
Okay, then we will pull that from the consent agenda. Any other additions, deletions, or amendments? So let's take a roll call vote on this approval of agenda, consent agenda, please.
Voting on the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda. Ambrosiani,
Yes.
Swan,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Chair Eklund.
Yes,
Your agenda and consent
Thank you.
agenda are approved, and approved on tonight's consent agenda are the March 2nd, 2021 regular meeting minutes.
thank you. I take the 2 special reports and presentations. Ms. Wild?
Madam Chair, I just have a couple things to discuss tonight. Number 1 being that community development will be closed for training Thursday, Friday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week. Courtney and I are both attending our planners conference via Zoom, but I'm not making Courtney attend it at 4:30 like I am in the morning. So we will be in the office. It's just we will not be open for public. We sent out that notice today just to let, and the clerk sent it out. I attended the flood board meeting last night and gave them a review of what we've been working on and that our priorities, you know, the request for our priorities would be introduced tonight. Just to let everybody know, they are working on moving their building, you know, to the, well, they're moving their offices to the Bear Creek Fire Station. Their plan is to, sorry, I gotta pull the calendar so I can actually look at it. So they have canceled their May 17th and June 21st work sessions. They are in the process of packing up and doing some personal vacation, but they'll have their regular meeting on June 7th. Their plan is to move their offices June 26th through July 1st, and they'll be back in their new offices on July 6th. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that. They also last night looked into entering into a replacement of some culverts on Nash Road to help with, they're going to be the contracting agent and apply for these grants that are done. They'll be working closely with DOT and with the city of Seward on those Nash Road culvert replacements. Our new city manager will start on May 24th. Her name is Jeanette Bauer, and I think Norm is really excited to not be the acting city manager anymore. Our office is still looking to hire an executive assistant / planning technician, so just that position is still open. And I will be out of the office May 24th through June 7th. So Courtney will be there for everyone. And then just a reminder that we had some replat come up. So on our May 20th meeting, we'll have a work session and then a regular scheduled meeting after that work session for a couple items to come
May
forward.
20th is a Thursday.
It is a Thursday because we moved it for the graduation. Because that's Tuesday night, correct? Yeah, so
Yeah.
graduation's on
Yeah.
Tuesday, so we moved it to that Thursday. I don't know, my kids are graduated. And then Courtney is attending another virtual conference to start getting her CFM, which is her Certified Floodplain Manager certification. So that's something that she'll be doing next week also. And that's it.
Thank you. Any follow-up or questions for administration? I hear no one, so I will move on the agenda to public hearings, and we have none scheduled tonight. We have no unfinished business. So we'll move on to 9.1, new business resolution 2021-011 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending City Council approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission priorities from January 2021 to January 2022. I believe the clerk would like us to have a motion before we get the staff report. So could we have a motion
Yeah, I'll make a
for
motion
approval?
to approve resolution 2021-011.
And I'll second it.
Motion by Charbonneau, second by Ambrosiani. Staff report, please.
Madam Chair, tonight's resolution is based off of your priority meeting that we had with the council back on March 8th. I changed the dates because during that work session, we were trying to get everything lined up to where our priorities will meet with the state, federal priorities. We can incorporate them, and as well as the council being able to do that. So my thought is when and if this is approved, we will start the review of our priorities probably in November, so we can approve them in December-ish to bring them forward for the council to be able to work with their priorities also. I did break it down based off of the meeting, and I've listened to it a couple times. The only thing that I do see, I need to put a space after airport and have Second Avenue Culvert Project on its own line. And as we've always said, I know that this commission works extremely hard. We do provide a lot of backup and data for other boards and commissions. And I think that, you know, changing things to be short and medium term and really categorizing these into a calendar so we know what direction we're doing will work really well for you as a commission. And it is open to amend or discuss.
Thank you. Commissioner Charbonneau is the maker of the motion. Did you want to start the discussion?
No, I'm good at time.
Commissioner Ambrosiani?
No, I had nothing to add.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and add just a couple of things. Number one, I think we need to add plan at the end of that sentence in the short and medium term.
Comprehensive plan. I have that written down also.
And then, on number one, the way it reads, it just says that we're gonna promote ground truthing. I thought we were going to do ground truthing.
It's promote the public interest into it, but it's the promote public interest, the understanding of what you guys do, and then the ground truthing.
Okay, let's wordsmith this a little bit, because to me it's just promoting public interest, promoting understanding, and promoting ground truthing. I think we need to ground truth. That might be a separate line.
So,
Conduct ground truthing of the city of Stuart, the whole city.
so are
What is
you
on each piece of property?
making an amendment to make that number 1 or number 2?
I would like to make it, let's make it number 2. I mean, we do want to promote public interest and understanding of the upcoming review process of the comprehensive plan. But number 2, I'd like it to be conduct ground truthing of the property within the city limits.
Madam Chair, if I can just ask the clerk a question, can we do
Sure.
an overall amendment, or do we need to do these amendments one by one, Madam Clerk?
You know, to make it easy, if there's gonna be, you think there's gonna be a lot, we can just take for non-objection. As long as there's no objection, we'll do unanimous consent.
Okay,
And then the final motion, we'll just take a roll call.
Okay.
If that helps.
does that work, Madam Chair?
Yes, so, I made this as an amendment. I believe we need a second for the amendment, and then we'll just do, okay, is that, Commissioner Swan seconded?
Yes.
Okay, so is there unanimous consent to that amendment?
Yes.
If not, say, nay.
Can I ask a question? When you say the ground truthing is number 2, what does it actually read as? So I know what it's being read as.
Conduct ground truthing
Yeah.
for the property within the city of Stuart limits.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
That was a good call, Cindy. Thank you.
Okay, so, that one is there any other amendments to this resolution or any other discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Ambrosiani.
do you want to add to that, to conduct ground truthing and report back to the commission, or,
The commission's gonna be doing the ground truthing.
Yeah.
okay, through the meetings?
Wait
And,
a minute. I'll tell you what's on the land I own.
Remember, we broke it down into districts, enough districts for every commissioner to do a section.
I'm having memory loss. Okay. I think that kind of should be what happens, Commissioner Ambrosiani. Bonnie, but if you wanna make that amendment, go ahead.
No, don't need it if everybody's clear on what the ground tree thing is going to be.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
by reading the short and medium term, since we took number 1 and made it into 2, you guys can get rid of number 5.
5, yes. Yep,
Good point.
that kind of needs to go in since we made it number 1.
Correct.
Okay.
Just renumber.
Is that just words, is that just,
Well, we can take that as housekeeping since it's redundant.
thank you, Madam Clerk. I don't see anything else other than the amendment that, Ms. Wild made under 6 to move Second Avenue Culvert Project down to its own bullet point. Yeah, I mean, number 7 and 8, again, this is just housekeeping. We've got working with CAP, and then we've got work with historic preservation. So we either should be working with or work with. They should both have the same.
I'll make it work with.
Okay, Commission, any other comments, additions, deletions?
Madam Chair, this is maybe just a point of my newness here, and it says January 2021 to January 2022 priorities. Are we supposed to accomplish all the short and medium term objectives that we've just discussed? Is that supposed to be done by January?
Welcome
as
to
a-
the club, Claire.
Now, if we take it one page at a time.
Yeah, these are our goals, and some of these are continuing.
Okay.
But the ones up on short and medium, we hope to accomplish those this calendar year. Again, we have a late start because, we didn't get on this. Like now when Jackie gave her report, we're gonna start drafting January 2022 to January 2023 in November to get it to the council so it's approved by January 2022.
I see. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Okay, I think that we are ready for a roll call vote on resolution 2021-011. Is that okay with the commission?
Yep.
Yes.
Seeing and hearing no objection, Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Okay, voting on the approval of resolution 2021-011 as amended. Ambrosiani,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Swan,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes,
Charbonneau,
Yes.
and Chair Eklund.
Yes.
Your resolution is approved.
Thank you. And now we are back to item, number 9.2, set a work session topic for May 2021 as continue the review of the municipal land use plan and start the review of the land use table and definition. Well, we need to change that. Complete. We need to change it to complete the definition ordinance and start the review of the municipal land use plan.
Madam Chair, I've been
Yes.
asked by administration if we can add the words review of the land use table in conjunction with light and heavy manufacturing definitions.
Okay, so when we review the land use table, they want add light manufacturing?
They want us to review the land use table in conjunction with the definition of what light and heavy manufacturing is and where it is allowed.
Okay, so we're just gonna make sure when we're reviewing the land use table and making, which, when we do that, we will be bringing forward our recommendations to council of what you think should change. And now what the council is asking is that when we do the land use table review, we add or define where light manufacturing and heavy manufacturing would be allowed within the city limits.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay. So,
Does that include what light manufacturing and heavy manufacturing includes?
yeah,
Yes.
I believe that we have to do that in order for the public to be aware of what could end up in their neighborhood.
You are correct, Madam Chair.
Okay, on May 20th, are we only having a work session?
No, we'll have a regular meeting afterwards. Originally, we had scheduled a work session for 5 o'clock, and then because this rezone or this replat has come forward, you'll have one item on your regular meeting, and it is a replat of property that needs to be put through to the borough.
So it's 5 o'clock
Okay.
Thursday the 20th.
5 o'clock for the work session, and then a regular meeting following that at 7.
Okay. Okay, so, can we, as I stated at the beginning, we need to complete the ordinance on the definitions of dwelling and housing and lodging,
So,
which we have 2.5 pages left of that.
so I can do that at the beginning, complete the review of housing dwelling, and then make your topic be continue review of land use and possible start review of land use tables. Does that work?
Okay, sure. We'll have 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
We are moving. So, I know that sounds like a lot, Commission, but, I don't know if anyone else has been getting calls about us getting our work done, so we're just gonna keep, we can only try. And if you don't succeed, try again until we are. So, unless somebody has other, comments regarding item 9.2, let's move on to item 9.3. So,
Madam Chair,
7 of the packet, yes.
I put this in there so we could just start the, how we're gonna move about our next couple work sessions, how this process works. Based off of what you just said, I just wanna include that there's a miscommunication where, we need to, you as a body and me as community development director, need to make sure that we incorporate the citizens and their input. And so explaining how the process works is why I put this in there, the start of the review. I mean, we were tasked with this back in February. This is not just a overnight 1 hour, 2 hour thing. So I just wanted to have, I know that you were part of the commission, I believe, when this was first adopted. And I just wanted to ask that you explain, how the process works, like why.
Okay. Okay, I think it's a, over 60-page document, correct?
Correct. It's, Yeah, it's a little over 60 pages, and it's in your guys' work session packet.
Right. So, what we did as the Planning and Zoning Commission in you remember with the Fort Raymond property was that, sell it with a sound development plan, or even the Jesse Lee property, maintain or sell with a sound development plan, or lease with a sound development plan, or sell. So, those kinds of things, some of it along the small Bull Harbor area is, those small lease sites there were just to continue the lease. Some public input was that, the city should be landlords. So I'm hoping that, as you're out and about, you try to, if you look through it now, then you can ask your social circles what they think should happen to it. And then when we meet, if we don't have any public at the work sessions, at least we've brought, some of our friends and family input into the meeting. And the council appointed us to review these things and bring our recommendations back to them. So it is a long document, but it's not as confusing as the code. I'll tell you that. There are prior recommendations, and it's a good document. It has a lot of information in it. So if there's any questions, I'll continue. Otherwise, I think we'll be ready to work on it on the 20th. Okay. So,
Thank you.
I think we'll move on to item 5. It was, I think, that Commissioner Ambrosiani pulled from the consent agenda. Could you, Commissioner Ambrosiani, I'm going to ask for your comments regarding your pulling it. Did you need to make an amendment?
Yes, I wanted to make an amendment.
We need to put it on the floor first,
Oh,
Madam Chair.
Okay, could I have a motion to, Commissioner Ambrosiani, would you make
I'll make a motion to amend the minutes of the April 6, 2021 regular meeting.
Just to clarify, it's
Okay,
to
thank
approve
you,
the minutes and
Commissioner,
then we'll do an amendment.
Ambrosiani and
I'm sorry.
Charbonneau. Okay,
It is.
Commissioner Ambrosiani, could you direct us to what you wanted to amend?
Yes, in two places, on the page 16 of our packet, under the heading for Marie Gage. She submitted a list of, I believe she might have called it a petition, I don't know if that's the correct wording, but a list of approximately 50 names against Resolution 2021-008 with signatures, and there was not a mention of this in the minutes.
Is there, when she spoke, did she, well, okay, I believe it was called a petition, but it wasn't a legal petition,
Yeah,
so I don't know.
but
She
Madam,
mentioned it as well when she spoke, so, how did you handle that when you drafted these minutes?
Madam Chair, I'm happy to add a reference to that, because I think that Commissioner Ambrosiani has a good point, that that is a substantial item that could be included in the minutes. So I'm happy to go back and make that amendment.
Okay,
Would that be?
so then will you bring these back at our next?
At your next meeting for approval, right.
Thank you.
Could I ask some clarifying questions, or a clarifying question on that?
Go ahead.
Would you attach the list, or just make reference to it?
No, I won't. No, the item itself, as a laydown, is provided on legislative history as a
Okay,
laydown to the
okay.
meeting. But, I'll be happy to make that reference inside the minutes,
Okay,
yeah.
and then I have one more, and that was page 18, the last full paragraph. If you could put some, let's see, under Ambrosiani thought the best location, he thought there was a clear message from the neighboring property owners that they did not want the facility to be located in this neighborhood. And I was referencing the list of the signatures. And that was
When you said you thought that was the
clear message from the neighborhood.
Okay, I'll take a listen to that as well.
Okay, that was it.
Okay, so, yeah, so if we could have a motion, to postpone these minutes to the next meeting, I'll be happy to bring back an amended
Thank you, Karen.
set.
Then I would make a motion to postpone the minutes
Okay.
to the next meeting agenda.
Maybe
And I'll second that.
May 20th?
Yeah,
Thank you.
and that's all I had for that item.
Do we need a roll call vote, clerk?
Yeah, that would be ideal. Thank you.
Okay. Is
Moving,
there any discussion on the motion to postpone? Okay, let's have a roll call vote.
okay, voting to postpone the minutes to May 20th. Cease?
Yes.
Swan?
Yes.
Ambrosiani?
Yes.
Charbonneau?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Chair Eklund?
Yes,
Okay, the minutes are postponed and you'll see them on May 20th. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, item, we're on 10, informational items and reports. Is there anything you'd like to highlight, Community Development Director Wallace?
Madam Chair, just that, what I provided, and then I also sent out to all the commissioners, a really good document about housing and how the numbers work. But this, green lighting cannabis is one of the main topics that is even happening at our planning conference. But this was, in their May magazine, this was their title, their top title, so I just wanted to include that. There wasn't a commissioner's newsletter this month, so I'll make sure that it was for the next month. But just some good briefing and background.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us to item 12, Commissioner comments, and I'm going to begin with Commissioner Sullivan. Do you have any comments?
Well, thank you again, once again, for, having the meeting. I really appreciate everybody in the planning department working so hard, and also the other departments that seem to work really well with them. There seems to be a very good interconnection on that. And I also would like to acknowledge Brenda, who I think lives here. Thank you for everything that you do. That's it.
Commissioner Ambrosiani?
Sure. I also wanted to thank Brenda for taking care of our minutes and other items. But then Jackie, you did a great job getting our definitions together and getting us this far. So
Thank you.
we're almost there. It's kind of a nice feeling. Thank you.
Commissioner Charbonneau?
Yeah, I would like to thank staff as well. These packets are large and in depth, and they take a lot of work, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Commissioner C?
Yes. I agree with everyone that's already spoke, but I just have special interest in how hard Jackie has worked. And I just can't imagine me sitting in her chair, having done all that work and having all the discussions of my work. As an architect, I didn't like that, and I don't like it now. And oh my. Your name?
Brenda.
Brenda. And for Brenda, you know, every day we get emails. I do.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know how to use them, but
Sorry.
I read them. And, I mean, it's amazing how hard yet you work, and Courtney's gonna be really at the task of, you know, supporting and going on through this stuff. And hopefully you'll last for 20 years. I won't be here in 20 years.
You never know.
You never know.
Might still
I'd
be
be
on it.
101.
Sitting right there.
Vice Chair Slum?
Lots of violence.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Madam Chair. I have a comment. One, I would like, my commission, to look into the idea, this is, I saw in another area, that would pertain to our harbor district, where they, and this has, pedestrians, but they got into a constraint, just called it a pedestrian area. So everywhere where you'd have a sign that says 20 miles an hour, you would have a sign that says pedestrian area yield to pedestrian. And I really like the idea, rather than having crosswalks in that harbor area where people stuck out between cars, they come from everywhere, that you have strictly an area that's called a pedestrian area, which gives the right to the road to pedestrians over cars. And I think that would be a real cool thing for our harbor district. And I'd like to look at that and see what anybody else thought. The other comment I have, and it had to do after our last meeting with a spot zoning. And the question is, I mean, we're and I think I brought it up in the meeting, that we're kind of stuck with living with spot zoning and doing things that we know the community would prefer different, but because the zoning we're stuck with. And I just wanted to bring it up that the solution to the spot zoning that we have up there on 2nd Avenue that we just discussed was that there's two different solutions. One is either the city buys that piece of property. The other solution is the residents buy that piece of property, get it rezoned, and then sell it. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck with what's going on. And if people don't understand that, I mean, that's the problem with spot zoning. And we've done it a couple places and things, and that's why spot zoning is such a difficult area. And I just wanted to kind of bring it up, what the solution is to spot zoning. Try and bring that out. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you. I will be back in the council chambers on May 20th, and I appreciate you all coming to the chambers this evening, and wish I was there. Thank you, Ms. Wild and Ms. Baloo, and Courtney, you must be there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. I know that your days must be filled with new information, and as Mr. Steve said, I hope you're here for 20 years. So,
Me too.
with that, we'll move on to citizens' comments. Did anyone show up?
We have 2 people in the audience, and there is one that would like to speak. 2 that would like to speak.
Come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Is this the spot?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so Christine Sheehan, I'm the CEO for Seaview Community Services, and I live outside of city limits but work here at Seaview. So thank you for the opportunity to share a few comments. I do want to, kind of revisit the April 6th meeting. In particular, I kind of want to reference that in terms of Seaview's mission in this community, and myself as an unfailing advocate for people with serious health conditions and disabilities. needing equal access to housing and treatment that the rest of us enjoy. So I will always be a strong advocate for that, and I want to make that statement this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can go get it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak at this time?
There is, Madam Chair. We just had, he left the room, so he's back now.
Okay, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Tony Bachland, Inside City Limits. My words are of my own and not of the council's, and all I want to say is happy birthday to Jackie. And thank you for working so hard on your birthday.
Thank you.
Nobody brought a cake, so I'm going to have to make up for that. And thank you to the commission for all your work and dedication to the city.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. At this time, are there any commissioner administration responses to citizens' comments?
Yes, I have one.
Go ahead, Commissioner Ambrosian.
Happy birthday, Jackie.
Thank you.
We ought to sing happy birthday.
No.
No,
Go ahead.
Okay, at this time, I think we should adjourn and let Jackie go enjoy her birthday evening.
I think so too.
Adjourned 7:45.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.